The lawyer's voice sliced through the thick, jasmine-scented air of the villa like a knife through overripe figs. "And to my granddaughter Madeline Rose Whitaker, I bequeath the entirety of my estate, the Casa de los Olivos, its lands, and all assets therein, on the condition that she honors the love she has always carried in her heart." Aunt Lydia's champagne flute shattered against the terracotta tiles, shards scattering like the family's brittle loyalties, while Uncle Harlan's face purpled as if the Andalusian sun had finally scorched his entitlement raw. But it was Elena's whisper, slithering from the shadows of the brocade curtains, "That dyke gets the house. Over us." That hit Madeline hardest, a venomous barb confirming what she'd known since she was 16. In this sprawling American dynasty transplanted to Spain's sun-baked coast, she was never kin, only the help. Madeline had come to the Casa de los Olivos 5 years earlier, fresh out of a community college in Sacramento that her family had deemed a waste for a girl like you. A girl like her, 22 then, with a buzz cut that screamed rebellion and a girlfriend's lipstick still faint on her collar from a furtive goodbye at the airport. Her parents, Harlan and Lydia, had shipped her off not out of cruelty, they claimed, but practicality. "Grandma Cora needs someone reliable around the villa," her father had said over the phone, his voice crackling like the static of their fractured bond. "And frankly, Maddie, after that phase with Sarah, a change of scenery might straighten you out." Straighten her out. The words had lodged in her throat like olive pits, but she'd swallowed them down, boarding the flight to Malaga with nothing but a duffel bag and a heart armored in quiet defiance. The villa perched on a hillside overlooking the Mediterranean, a relic of old money, whitewashed walls cracked by centuries of Sirocco winds, bougainvillea clawing at the iron gates like desperate fingers. Cora Whitaker, heiress to a Texas oil fortune that her husband had parlayed into European vineyards, had bought it in the 70s as a summer folly, dragging her reluctant family across the Atlantic each June. By the time Madeline arrived, Cora was 75, her once vibrant red hair faded to silver, her steps slowed by arthritis that twisted her hands like ancient olive branches. But her eyes, sharp blue, unyielding, still held the fire of a woman who'd outmaneuvered boardrooms and betrayals alike. From the start, Madeline was assigned duties. Not as a granddaughter, oh no, that title was reserved for Elena, the golden child, with her vassal degree and engagement to a minor Spanish noble. Madeline was the housekeeper, the gardener, the errand girl who fetched Cora's medications from the pharmacy in Marbella and scrubbed the salt from the infinity pool's tiles. "It's temporary," her mother assured her in weekly emails, laced with passive-aggressive links to reparative therapy retreats. "Just until you find your footing. Grandma appreciates the help." Help. The word became Madeline's cage, its bars forged from familial indifference and the humid weight of unspoken shame. Yet Cora saw her. Not as the help, but as the girl who'd once built forts in the Texas ranch house attic, whispering secrets to stuffed animals about the pretty neighbor girl who made her stomach flutter. On Madeline's first night, as thunder rattled the villa's shutters, Cora had knocked on her door, her room, a converted storage closet off the kitchen, with a single bulb swinging like a noose. "Come sit with me, child," she'd said, her voice a low drawl that bridged the Atlantic. They'd shared a bottle of Manzanilla sherry on the veranda, the sea a black mirror below, and Cora had confessed her own ghosts, a college sweetheart named Evelyn, lost to a '50s sanatorium that cured her with ice baths and electroshock. "They called it hysteria back then," Cora murmured, her gnarled fingers tracing the rim of her glass. "But it was love, plain and fierce. Don't let them dim yours, Maddie. Not for a second." That night cracked something open in Madeline, a fissure of trust, fragile as the villa's frescoes. Over the years, it widened into a secret kinship. Cora taught her to prune the grapevines, sharing stories of bootleg speakeasies and women's rights marches where she'd locked arms with suffragettes. Madeline, in turn, read to her from dog-eared paperbacks, Audre Lorde, James Baldwin, her voice steady against the cicadas' chorus. They never spoke of the family's disdain outright, it hung in the air like the scent of overripe figs, acknowledged only in Cora's occasional, wry asides, "Your Uncle Harlan thinks affection is a ledger entry." Foolish man. But in those twilight hours, Madeline felt seen, her queerness not a flaw but a thread in the tapestry of their shared defiance. It was during one such evening, 3 summers in, that Sophia appeared, like a mirage conjured from the heat haze over the almond groves. Madeline had been hauling laundry from the line, sweat plastering her tank top to her skin, when the rental car's tires crunched on the gravel drive. Out stepped a woman in her late 20s, all effortless grace, sun-kissed olive skin, black curls tumbling to her shoulders, a linen sundress fluttering like a flag of surrender. She was a freelance photographer from Madrid, hired by Cora to document the vineyard for a heritage grant application. Encantada, Sophia said, extending a hand calloused from camera grips, her brown eyes crinkling with a warmth that made Madeline's pulse stutter. Cora, ever the matchmaker in wolf's clothing, had orchestrated it. Sophia's got an eye for the hidden beauties, she'd confided later, winking over her morning café con leche. The ones the world overlooks. Madeline dismissed it as grandmotherly meddling, but the flutter in her chest betrayed her. Over the next weeks, as Sophia roamed the estate with her Nikon, capturing the gnarled olive trunks at golden hour and the way sunlight fractured through the bodega's barrels, she and Madeline collided in stolen moments. A shared cigarette behind the tool shed, Sophia's laughter bubbling like kava as Madeline recounted her botched attempts at paella. A midnight swim in the pool, the water silvered by moonlight, where Sophia's fingers brushed Madeline's underwater, lingering just long enough to ignite a spark. "You're not like the others here," Sophia murmured one night, their shoulders touching on the villa's rooftop terrace, the stars a scatter of diamonds above the Costa del Sol. "They look at this place like it's a trophy. You tend it like it's alive." Madeline, heart hammering, confessed fragments, the family's dismissal, the ache of loving women in a house that prized sons and straight lines. Sophia listened, her head tilting like a sunflower, then leaned in, not to kiss, but to press her forehead to Madeline's, a gesture soft as sea glass. "Then let me see you," she whispered. "All of you." What bloomed between them was tentative, tender, a romance etched in the margins of Madeline's days. Stolen afternoons in the grove, where they'd lie on picnic blankets, Sophia sketching Madeline's profile in her notebook while Madeline braided wildflowers into Sophia's curls. Letters folded into camera cases, Sophia's elegant script promising more than snapshots when she returned to Madrid. It was the first time Madeline allowed herself to dream of a life beyond the villa's shadows, perhaps a small apartment in Granada, Sophia's photos on the walls, their hands intertwined at market stalls fragrant with saffron and regret. But dreams in the Casa de los Olivos were fragile things, prone to shattering. Elena arrived unannounced one August, her Mercedes kicking up dust like an accusation, her designer luggage thudding onto the foyer rug. At 28, Elena was the family's polished jewel, law degree from Georgetown, a fiancé named Raoul who traced his lineage to Habsburgs, and a knack for turning every conversation into a transaction. She'd always viewed Madeline with a mix of pity and disdain, the black sheep cousin whose lifestyle choices were whispered about at Thanksgiving Zoom calls. "Darling, you look rustic," Elena had cooed upon arrival, eyeing Madeline's dirt-streaked jeans. "Grandma must be thrilled to have such devoted help." Cora, frail but fierce, had waved off the barb with a flick of her fan. "Madeline's more than help, Elena. She's the heart of this place." But Elena's visit stretched from days to weeks, her presence a slow poison seeping into the villa's veins. She commandeered the guest suite, scrolling through spreadsheets of estate optimizations on her laptop, suggesting Cora sell off parcels to developers for luxury condos. "It's 2025, Grandma, vineyards are so last century. Think eco-resorts." Cora's refusals grew sharper, her blue eyes narrowing like storm clouds over the strait. It was during one such confrontation, in the shadowed study lined with leather-bound ledgers, that the fracture deepened. Madeline had entered to dust the shelves, tray of lemon polish in hand, when she overheard Elena's voice, honeyed and hard. "You can't seriously be leaving it all to her." "Madeline? The one who parades around with that Spanish tart?" "It's unnatural, Grandma." The family name, Cora's retort cut like a scythe. The family name was built on love, Elena, messy, unapologetic love. Yours is built on greed. Silence fell, thick as the dust motes in the air, and Madeline slipped away, her chest tight with the weight of secrets weaponized. That night, as thunderheads gathered over the Sierras, Sophia arrived for what was to be their last evening before her Madrid deadline. They'd planned a quiet dinner in the kitchen, paella simmered low, candles guttering against the draft, but Elena's shadow loomed. She'd accidentally invited Raoul and a coterie of local elites for an impromptu soirée, transforming the veranda into a swirl of clinking glasses and forced laughter. Madeline, relegated to server, circulated with trays of jamon iberico, her apron a badge of invisibility. Sophia, cornered by Elena's charm offensive, shot Madeline apologetic glances across the crowd, her fingers twitching as if longing to bridge the divide. The betrayal came swift as a summer squall. As guests dispersed into the humid night, Elena cornered Sophia by the fountain, her voice a silken snare. "You know Madeline's just the help, right? Cora's little charity case. If you're serious about your career, darling, you might want to network with real influencers, like Raoul's firm. We could make introductions." Sophia's laugh was polite, strained, but Madeline, lingering in the alcove with empty platters, saw the flicker, the momentary dazzle of opportunity in Sophia's eyes. When Elena pressed a business card into her palm, Sophia accepted it, her gaze sliding away from Madeline's shadowed form. By dawn, Sophia was gone, her rental car vanishing down the winding road to Malaga, a terse email in Madeline's inbox, work calls. "Let's talk soon. Te quiero. Te quiero. I care for you." But the words rang hollow, undercut by the card tucked in Sophia's wallet, the ambition that had always simmered beneath her artist soul. Madeline burned the email printout in the kitchen hearth, the flames devouring the ink like accusations. Cora found her there, curled on the flagstones, and pulled her into an embrace that smelled of lavender and old grief. "Betrayal's the tax on loving fiercely, child," she murmured. "But it doesn't claim the heart unless you let it." In the weeks that followed, the villa felt smaller, its walls pressing in like judgmental whispers. Elena's visits multiplied, her consultations with Cora devolving into veiled ultimatums: sell the land, or risk family discord. Madeline buried herself in work, tending the vines until her hands blistered, weeding the herb garden until dusk bled into starlight. She avoided mirrors, afraid of the hollows forming under her eyes, the way her reflection echoed her mother's warnings: "Love like that only brings pain, Maddie." But Cora refused to yield, her will, literally and figuratively, unbending. "This house isn't bricks and mortar," she'd say, gripping Madeline's arm during their evening walks. "It's a testament to endurance. To loving who you are, no matter the cost." As autumn's chill gilded the olive leaves, Cora's health faltered. A fall in the bath, a stubborn cough that rattled like loose gravel. The family descended like vultures, Harlan from his Houston high-rise, Lydia from her Pilates studio in Palm Springs, Elena from her Barcelona penthouse. They filled the villa with the clamor of entitlement, discussions of trustees, tax shelters, the practicality of liquidating assets for the greater good. Madeline faded into the periphery, serving trays of weak tea and bitter nods, her presence acknowledged only when someone needed a fresh towel or a lost key. One rain-lashed evening, as the Sierras wept silver rivers down the hills, Cora summoned the lawyer. Senor Alvarez, a dapper man from Ronda with a mustache like a handlebar, arrived in a sleek Audi, his briefcase heavy with finality. The family gathered in the grand salon, its chandelier casting fractured light like broken promises. Cora, propped in her wingback chair with blankets cocooning her frail form, looked every one of her 80 years, yet her voice, when she spoke, carried the weight of epics. "I've made my peace," she said, her drawl cutting through the patter of rain on the roof tiles. "Now it's time for yours." The reading was brief, brutal. To Harlan, a modest annuity, enough to remind you of the labors that built this, not the greed that would tear it down. To Lydia, the jewelry collection, trinkets for a woman who values shine over substance. To Elena, the vineyard's equipment, tools for one who sows discord. Gasps, protests, a chair scraping back as Harlan bellowed, "This is insanity." "After all but Cora raised a trembling hand, silencing him. Then, the hammer blow. To Madeline, my truest heir, the Casa de los Olivos in full, house, lands, legacy. Because she alone has tended its soul. The room erupted. Harlan's face contorted, veins bulging like knotted roots. Lydia clutched her pearls as if they could ward off the injustice. Elena's eyes narrowed to slits, her whisper, that unnatural girl. Hanging like smoke. Madeline, stationed by the sideboard with a pitcher of water, felt the world lurch. Not from the wind howling outside, but from the sudden clarity. Cora had seen her, always. The bequest wasn't just land, it was absolution, a public affirmation of the love the family had branded deviance. In the chaos that followed, shouts echoing off the vaulted ceilings, Senor Alvarez's measured interjections, Madeline slipped away to Cora's bedside. The old woman, spent but serene, pressed a sealed envelope into her palm. Read it later, love. And remember, roots run deep. They don't break easy. By midnight, Cora was gone, her passing as quiet as the rain's hush, leaving behind a void that swallowed the villa whole. The funeral was a farce of propriety, black veils and whispered condolences under the cypress trees of the Marbella cemetery, the sea a slate-gray mourner beyond the gates. The family closed ranks, Harlan's lawyers circling like sharks, filing motions to contest the will on grounds of undue influence and diminished capacity. Elena, ever the strategist, unearthed old emails, Madeline's coming-out letter from a decade prior, forwarded in a fit of spite, waving it like a scarlet letter. Grandma was manipulated, she hissed to the notary, her eyes gleaming with righteous fury. By her. The help. The deviant. Madeline, adrift in the eye of the storm, retreated to the groves. The envelope from Cora burned in her pocket, unopened, a talisman against the onslaught. It was there, amid the twisted trunks that had witnessed generations of whispers, that Sophia reappeared, not as a lover, but a ghost summoned by regret. Her car pulled up at twilight, gravel crunching like bones underfoot. She stepped out in a wool coat against the autumn chill, her curls tamed into a bun, her face etched with lines of apology. I saw the obituary in El País, she said, voice cracking like dry earth. Maddie, I don't. Madeline's voice was steel-wrapped in sorrow, her arms crossed over her chest like a shield. You chose your path. Elena's card, the networking. I saw it all. Sophia flinched, tears carving tracks down her cheeks, but she didn't retreat. Instead, she pulled a manila folder from her bag, sketches, contracts, a grant proposal for a photography exhibit on hidden histories of the Costa del Sol. I turned it down, she confessed. The firm, the connections. Because it meant losing you. Elena's world, it's all facade. But you. You're real. The way you love this place, Cora, us. I was scared, Maddie. Of the messiness. But I'm here now. The confession hung between them, fragile as the first frost on the vines. Madeline wanted to rage, to hurl the pain of abandonment like stones into the sea. But Cora's words echoed, roots run deep, and in Sophia's eyes, she saw not betrayal's echo, but redemption's fragile bloom. They talked until stars pricked the indigo sky, words tumbling like olive harvest, Sophia's fears of instability, Madeline's terror of unworthiness. When Sophia reached for her hand, Madeline didn't pull away. Their fingers laced, tentative anchors, and in that grip, the first mending began. The legal battle raged through winter, the family's avarice a blizzard that blanketed the villa in subpoenas and depositions. Harlan deposed Cora's doctors, twisting medical notes into narratives of senility. Lydia unearthed photo albums, cropping Madeline from frames as if erasing her existence. Elena, the sharpest blade, hired a private investigator who unearthed Sophia's Madrid address, sending anonymous letters laced with insinuations. Associates of deviance need not apply for grants. The pressure mounted, cracked spiderwebbing through Madeline's resolve. Nights blurred into dawn vigils by Cora's empty chair, the wills weighed a millstone around her neck. Yet in the quiet hours, Sophia became her ballast. She moved into the guest house, no grand gestures, just shared suppers of gazpacho and garlic, Sophia's camera capturing the villa's resilience, frost-laced arches, Madeline's silhouette against the hearth. Their love deepened not in passion's blaze, but embers glow, conversations that stretched like the coastline, vulnerabilities shared over chamomile tea. "I used to think love was escape," Madeline admitted one foggy morning, as they walked the boundary paths. "From this place, this family. But Cora taught me it's tending, staying, even when it hurts." Sophia nodded, her head on Madeline's shoulder. "Then we'll tend it together." The climax shattered on a crystalline March day, as almond blossoms dusted the hills like snow. The appeals court convened in Malaga's neoclassical courthouse, a chamber of marble and murmured Spanish. The family arrayed like a tribunal, Harlan in a power suit, Lydia dabbing theatrical tears, Elena with a dossier of evidence, printouts of Madeline's old social media, grainy photos of her and Sophia at a seaside cafe, hands brushing over cortados. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair coiled like a crown, listened impassively as Elena's counsel spun their tale, undue influence, of vulnerable elder preyed upon by a disgruntled relative with ulterior motives. Madeline took the stand last, her palms slick against the wooden rail, Sophia's locket, a simple silver olive branch, cool against her collarbone. She spoke not in legalese, but truth, the years of labor, the unspoken bond with Cora, the love that had sustained them both. "She wasn't manipulated," Madeline said, voice steady as the Mediterranean's tide. "She chose me because I chose her, every day, without expectation. That's family, not blood or boardroom deals." The room held its breath, Elena's glare a laser of loathing, but when Madeline opened Cora's envelope, sealed with the old woman's wax crest, the words within sealed fates. It was a letter, penned in Cora's looping script, affidavits of soundness, witnessed by Senor Alvarez, codicils affirming Madeline's role not as help, but steward, and a final, searing testament, "To my kin who contest this, examine your hearts. Wealth is not legacy, love is." Madeline embodies the Whittaker fire, unquenched, unashamed. Honor that, or fade into the footnotes of history. Gasps rippled, Harlan deflated like a punctured tire, Elena's facade cracked, her whisper lost in the judge's gavel. The ruling came swift, the will upheld, the estate Madeline's. The family slunk away, Harlan to his oil rigs, Lydia to her spas, Elena to a bitter divorce from Raoul, her ambitions curdling like soured milk. No grand reconciliation, just the quiet unraveling of ties too frayed to mend. In the villa's aftermath, Madeline and Sophia rebuilt, opening the groves to queer artists' retreats, vines yielding wines labeled resilient roots. Cora's portrait hung in the salon, her smile a benediction. Years later, as Madeline stood on the veranda, Sophia's hand warm in hers, their adopted daughter toddling through the herb garden, the sea whispered of endurance. Betrayal had scarred, but love had healed, a humanistic hymn to the messy grace of chosen family. In the Casa de los Olivos, roots ran deep indeed, not in soil alone, but in the fierce, unyielding heart.